Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy, a literary podcast where we deep dive into the writings of your favorite novels. This autumn-ish, we are hosting a book club while we prepare our 10-part literary analysis of Sarah J. Maas's Heir of Fire.
This is Jac.
And I'm Amy.
And each week we'll discuss one book from our Autumnish book club roster. By using our literary background, we'll provide our flash analysis of each book, as well as discuss listener thoughts.
This week, we're discussing The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins.
The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author. This podcast is a discussion shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel. The interpretations presented in this podcast are just a few of the many possibilities. Listeners are encouraged to read along and share their own analysis of the text.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series spoilers may be discussed with or without warning. Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death will recur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised. If you're enjoying the podcast, check out our Patreon for more exclusive content. You can find us at patreon.com/booktalkforbooktalk.
Okay, so we're starting this episode and we are live streaming it for our Patreon. And right now, the live stream people can see Amy's wearing black lipstick. Please tell us your reason.
My reason is because there are a lot of different lipstick colors represented in the Capitol, and I wanted to be part of that.
So we did it, guys. We came together and as a community peer pressured Amy to read The Hunger Games. And this is the second time we've done this because we peer pressured her into reading Throne of Glass.
It's true.
And here we are with Hunger Games. And based off of how today's conversations go, maybe one day when we're out of Throne of Glass books, we come back to this series. I don't know. We've literally have said nothing on this. Amy read the book and then she was like, I read all three.
Yeah.
I reread this book. And by read, we will disclose, listened. I did not have time to go and listen to the second two, so I watched a lot of TikTok videos. But, it's time. Hands up, tits up. Describe this book, either this book or your experience, in 10 words or less.
Okay. The intimacy of Katniss's inner dialogue was necessary for enjoyment.
I don't think you're going to top that this season.
I don't think so either. It's just going to devolve.
Yeah. No, you came in too strong. Okay. Haven't read this since first publish-ish. Holds up even better.
I already have goosebumps because there is so much commentary, and this will certainly be one of the themes we talk about. So much commentary about the real world that is so relevant.
I want to go into a couple of reasons as to why you didn't read it, just so that people get to know your level of stubborn and why we break you down as we do. And 3, I do want to preface all of this of saying, from what I've heard, Suzanne Collins has said that she'll only write Hunger Games books when it feels like she needs to say something. Which is terrifying that she's written 3 more new ones lately in recent years that I refuse to read because
it hurts.
I just my mental health isn't there yet. I'm already living this world. I can't read a metaphorical version of this.
I mean, how did you hold up reading this book given our current circumstances? I think it would be harder to read the next 2, honestly.
I think because I know what's going to happen in the next 2, and I have a lot of other thoughts about how the series ends. What kept playing in my head is that from day one, I've never thought that this was a YA book. It's a YA book because the characters are that age, and you cannot age them up because then it would lose meaning. And as I was reading this, I was just like, this isn't YA. I always felt that. And it just confirmed more because here I am years later and I still have those feelings and I felt like I could understand it in a deeper level. When was this published?
Early 2010s?
2008. Okay, so talk about your experience.
Sure. So Let me take you back to 2008. I had just been convinced to read Twilight, and Breaking Dawn was about to come out. So I read all 3 books, and then I read Breaking Dawn. And then I said, I am never wasting my life on something everybody suggests to me ever again. No offense to anyone who loves Twilight. I think I would have a different appreciation for it now. I think I was really depressed, and I spent 2 weeks reading and was about to start at ASU, and I was just really mad at life and really mad at myself. And I just hated everything and everyone. So I was like, never again. So when the Hunger Games movies started coming out and all my friends started reading the books and were like, oh my goodness, you need to read these books. They're so good. I was like, absolutely fucking not. And I stood by that until now. And you know what? I'm actually glad I did not read it when I was younger, because I could not appreciate it the way I appreciate it now.
Yeah, I feel like Susan Collins was able to get published because of the time that was YA. You know, they were looking for another Twilight. And you come in and you're just like, oh, we have a love triangle, right? Peeta, Gale, who's she going to choose? Team Edward, Team Jacob. Like, that's what they were hungry for.
Mm-hmm.
And then what Hunger Games did was demolish the playing field of YA, because we went from, you know, vampires to now dystopian. And that was the rage for the longest time, was who can have the most dystopian book around. And I do remember a lot of people, like, because I was a big Twilight fan, but then people would be like, it's just like Hunger Games or Harry Potter. Let's not try to like compare things. Let's like, each of them are different.
Yeah.
It is hard. And I remember reading this. I read it a bunch of times when I was younger. And then I took a YA class in college about YA literature, and this was a huge topic we discussed. And then my professor claimed to have been friends with Susan Collins, and then told me some stuff about how the end of the series was supposed to go, because I had a hunch on how the end of the series went, but we'll save that for later.
Okay.
What are some themes? Which out of the thousands of themes would you like to call out?
Well, you know, food is power. Obviously, you know, I mentioned to Jack at some point after reading it, I was like, I mean, I knew food is power was going to be a theme, but it's a theme. So obviously that. So 1. Did you want to name some other ones?
Yeah. Government corruption.
Yeah.
You can talk about
Class divides. Beauty standards. You can talk. Appearance is so important in this.
There are so many takeaways that I remember. I don't think it's in the first book, and like in the second 2 books. Also, I will say, we will spoil the first 3 books. I refuse to not be able to talk about all 3. As for the more recent ones, we're not going to spoil because we haven't read it. But there's a line from one of the other books where I remember at the party, and this is the kind of thing that haunts me. They would take pills to make themselves throw up so that they could eat more.
Yeah, that was after the victory tour in Catching Fire. I don't know if it's pills or like a little shot of something.
They just would consume something to make themselves throw up so that they get to eat more. And it's the way that I think about that. And then I think about the amount of food and waste that goes on. Like currently in the administration, they are trashing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of feminine care and birth control rather than distributing it like other global humanitarian aids were like, we will take it. It doesn't expire until like 2027. Like, we will take it. And they're not.
So excess waste media is so important. We could probably talk about this for an entire season.
I think this is the kind of thing where I'm like, after we're done with SJM, I think we go Hunger Games.
Yeah, we'll see. It's another white author. That's my only hang up. But I agree. Like, this has so much content. So going back to your YA thing, though, before we dive into the themes, this themes wise, not YA. The way it is written reads very YA in the sense of the inner dialogue and conflict that is taking place and the way the thought processes play out and are explained to us. To me, that comes across as very YA. It's not as sophisticated in which you're reading between lines, which is fine. And I think is actually very necessary because I didn't like the Hunger Games movies. I thought Katniss was a dick and had no reason to like her. But having read this from a first person narrative from Katniss's point of view, I now understand what the acting in the movie could not portray. And that's not me bashing Jennifer Lawrence. That's me saying too much hinges on the thought processes in the novel for us to truly appreciate what is going on.
Unbelievably true. There was something about this reread where I just forgot how well Susan Collins and captures that Katniss is just a kid. Like there would be times where Katniss would just start laughing or throw herself into Haymitch's arms and just do something very childlike. And every time it was jarring because you created this character that's had to be stoic and be the breadwinner for so long. And then, you know, at the end of the day, she is still just a girl and is still a kid. And you wouldn't be able to get to those moments without those thought process, right? Where you can see her figuring things out, being very young, and then just, but at the same time, just wanting to smile, just wanting to have those relaxed moments. And I think that really is like a good catch where it's like themes, not YA. The writing style, it is YA because the characters are young.
Yeah, exactly. And Katniss is 16 in the first book and then 17 in the subsequent 2 books, which is important. I mean, we are dealing with a minor who is dealing with some really hard things.
Yeah.
To your point, which makes it not very YA. But I had so much empathy for Katniss. Like, no matter what her choices are, good or bad, like, you can't fault her for any of them.
No.
Which I thought Suzanne did a marvelous job with that.
Yeah.
Because it could, if done incorrectly, could have been very easy to hate Katniss from a writing perspective. But you understand immediately that whatever choice she makes is not really a choice she makes autonomously.
When it comes to Katniss, Suzanne made it difficult for herself because Katniss is not endearing. She's not funny. She's not particularly kind or endearing. She doesn't have these traits that you would normally want to make your protagonist, who you are in their perspective, in their mind, for all the books, you would do something to have that. Instead, they joke about how similar she is to Haymitch and how unlikable and in many ways is an anti-hero, but she's not an anti-hero. So that's even more difficult, right? Like, because anti-heroes you can kind of understand, but this is just kind of a stubborn girl who's had to who's rough, really rough around the edges. And yet, like you said, you empathize so much with her because if there's one thing that she does have, it's so much love for her family, for Prim. And coming back down to that, I do want to say real quick, in case someone was like, why does it make it YA? YA is very much traditionally defined as coming of age. So there is something that is taking them from childhood to beginning of adulthood. And you do not have that with Hunger Games because she is right in there. Her coming of age would have been at 11 when she started hunting. Yeah,
it's not a traditional, I think the phrase is Bildungsroman, which is that coming of age story. But it is in the sense of there is an innocence lost. Like, she's lost her innocence a long time ago, but there's a naivety that is lost in this process.
Yeah.
That she still possesses. And that, to me, makes it very much a coming of age story.
Oh, you still feel like it is a coming of age?
In some ways, not in the traditional sense, but the loss of, so there's a moment in the first book before they go into the Hunger Games where Peeta and Katniss are talking on the roof, and Peeta's, I forget what he says exactly, but it's like, I want to die the way I am. I don't want them to change me. Exactly. And Katniss doesn't understand what he means. And then she eventually gets it. And she reflects on it in book 2 and book 3 and how she now understands. And to me, that's the coming of age, that she gains this awareness of the world around her. Yeah, that's fair. That she never had before. I think that is a great freaking point because
if you are not going, a lot of times that's like a realization people have with their parents, right? Is like, oh, they're not who I thought they were. And what Katniss is realizing is this government, this world we live in, it's worse than I even realized. It's the peek behind the curtain. It's the discovering of the wizard behind the Wizard of Oz, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's having this reality kind of crumble and then saying, who do I want to be behind that? And what I think makes that poignant is that that's a coming of age that can happen at any age, is that realization. It's things like that mixed with like, even like Throne of Glass, because you don't have the traditional coming of age type of vibe. And I think that's why a lot of adults can go back and read Throne of Glass and be okay with it. But I think this particular, like you're calling out, this loss of innocence, that can happen at any point in anyone's life.
Yeah, it's a disillusionment. And not everyone is disillusioned from their parents or the government and the patriarchy until later in life. It doesn't have to happen while you're a teenager. In that way, I felt I empathized and sympathized with Katniss because of the disillusionment. Like, she always knew government was bad. She always knew the Capitol was bad, but didn't know how bad.
Yeah.
For me, that feels very poignant from my perspective, and like returning to the United States as a teenager and learning about how this government works and being told one thing growing up and then experiencing it differently.
Oh boy, isn't that America right there, being told you're going to have all these things and America is the best place in the world and you have all this freedom and everything is yours if you just work hard enough.
Yep.
And then you unpack just how horribly systematic things can be and you're just like, oh, this is horrible. You're talking about disillusionment. It kind of gives me hints to Spark of the Everflame with Diem. And how she kind of has to deprogram herself. And I wonder it would be interesting to ask Penn if like that concept was an inspiration, but mainly because if you think about the beginning of Hunger Games, there's a conversation that Gale has with Katniss, and she talks about how Gale just rages against Panem. That's what it's called, right? Yeah.
Panem.
Yeah. Like he just rages against them and is just like, we could get out of here. And she just thinks like, well, there's no point. Like, there's no point to it. And that, I think, is so again, another poignant thing of why complain about the government if there's nothing you can do about the government? So why can't I just go along just trying to survive?
Yeah. I felt that one in my core. Like, not in a good way, core.
Yeah. Not in your loins.
Nope.
Let's talk a little bit more about that core rattling feeling of just, and I think this is something that everyone, a lot of people are probably feeling, and I go in and out of it. You know, there's some days where it's like I'm raging, I'm protesting, and then there's other days where it's like I can't watch another news thing because this is like breaking me. And then I know there's a lot of people who, what's the point of protesting? You know, like nothing's going to change afterwards. And it is, and that's kind of like where Katniss is at the beginning of, well, what's the point of any of this? You know, even though she lives in the poorest district, she's getting by. Like they're able to eat, they get by. All things considered in her District 12, they do all right.
Again, this is kind of this loss of innocence. She doesn't like the status quo, but she's comfortable with the status quo. And you see that a lot more, I think, in Catching Fire, where Katniss mourns the loss of her hunting Sundays with Gale, right? Because when she comes back, he's 18, he's gone to the mines. She mourns the loss of Darius, the peacekeeper that flirted with her in the Hob,
who ends up about that. What happened?
He ends up becoming a Vox.
Oh.
And he serves her in her apartment in book 2 before she goes back into the Hunger Games. Like, it's very, very tragic because, you know, the peacekeepers in District 12 have kind of just gotten to this laissez-faire place where they're like, we won't report you if you trade your best game with us. You know, people have found a way to survive that they're comfortable with.
They've created their own community, their own ecosystem in many ways, their own government, their own understanding.
Yeah, and all throughout the series, Katniss mourns the loss of that.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. It wasn't great. but she mourns the loss of her normal
Mm-hmm.
by going into the Hunger Games, by sparking rebellion and revolution, by the torching of District 12, and then ultimately in the loss of her sister.
Yeah. Katniss, at the very beginning of the series, is used as a tool, and she is used as a tool till the end. She's used as a tool from the moment she volunteers as tribute, that very famous, I volunteer as tribute, right? God, the memes were great back in the day. Still use it. Still use that meme.
Yeah.
But the second that happened, she was used as good TV, right?
Yeah.
And then she goes on to the Hunger Games. She wins. Her and Peeta get out. And now she's being used as a symbol of rebellion, even while she's within the Hunger Games the first time, and she's in there trying to take care of Rue and trying to, do what she can to not lose herself. That inspires her. So now, and then it goes too far where she's now not just this rebellion, leader of a rebellion. She's not a leader of rebellion. She is the face of a rebellion. And she doesn't even get to help rebel, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's a face of look out for that, terrorist. And she just never gets to be her own self. And it's incredible. And one of the themes I think you can talk about this is like a runaway identity in many ways, a runaway idea, concept that one person can latch on and have 5 different meanings, and it no longer means the first thing that it originally meant. That could be as simple of a law as in the Constitution, we have the right to pursue happiness, something like that. But I don't know the Constitution. Just you can, and it goes from, but the concept of you have this, thing in the Constitution that everyone takes and says, well, it means X, Y, and Z, and it means A, B, and C, and these are the different things. Or you can have a person represent that, as in Katniss.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, for example, the Mockingjay is one of those symbols, right? It was just a pin on her shirt that suddenly means so many other things that devolves into a costume that she wears and that she becomes. Mm-hmm. Same with the berries, right? For a moment, the Nightlock berries are the one moment where Katniss is able to use media in a way to her advantage, right? And it's probably one of the only times that she's able to do it. And was she truly cognizant of the impact she was going to have? No, she just knew what her end game was.
Yeah.
And then the berries themselves become a symbol such that it becomes a suicide pill by the end of the book. The way simple actions are hyperbolized to mean so much more is very interesting in a world where we have social media, where media is always at our fingertips, where no matter your intention, one thing you do can be exaggerated, blown up, extrapolated to mean so many different things depending on who is interpreting it.
Absolutely. And that's why Katniss is the perfect person for this. And that's why she's the perfect heroine. And that's why you wouldn't be able to have someone who is particularly funny. You couldn't have an Aelin as Katniss. You couldn't have someone that was, I don't want to say Katniss didn't have a personality, because she definitely did. But I don't think the fact that she's not particularly endearing all around to media is perfectly ironic, and even makes it even better that she is used so much in every regard. She's this lovelorn girl who is supposed to kill the man she loves, and all this stuff, and now she's pregnant. That's book 2, and now she's the symbol of rebellion. But you're able to do that because if she was this very loud, aggressive personality type, this jokester individual, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
And it also just shows everyone knows that she was kind of the right person to manipulate.
Yes, absolutely. It's also because she's so dense in a lot of ways. And dense is not the most appropriate word, but if we look, let's go back to Feyre in A Court of Thorns and Roses. She is surviving, not thriving.
Yep.
All that matters to her is can I feed my family? Can I feed myself? Right? And then she gets into the Hunger Games. Can I save myself? And should I save Peeta?
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have the awareness necessary to know that she's being used. And when she does develop that awareness, she's powerless to it.
And isn't that symbolism for the average, we'll call it American citizen? You can say a citizen of any country, but let's just say calling out America right now. But isn't that just like symbolism of that, where you are, in many ways, people are literally just trying to survive. The average person, if they were to lose they're living paycheck by paycheck. If they lost everything, they wouldn't be able to survive. Minimum wage isn't even something that you can live on anymore.
Yeah. I saw a reel yesterday that if we today wanted to have the same buying power as our parents and grandparents in the 70s to buy a house, minimum wage would have to be $66 an hour.
Yeah.
For us to be equivalent to the minimum wage worker of the 70s. It's insanity.
It's insanity. And yet some boomers are like, there was an article years ago where they blamed millennials for eating avocado toast. And it's like, let me have this. And we are just victims of that, right? Of just trying to get by. I mean, if you think about when this was published, it was around the time of the collapse, recession. Everything went absolutely tits up at that time. It's so painful how this grew with millennials, as we're talking about, we're just trying to live paycheck to paycheck. People don't buy houses. They can't afford to have kids. Everyone's just literally trying to survive, barely thinking about thriving, like I'll eat my avocado toast, damn it. Yeah. And that is, Katniss is the average person. She's just trying to survive.
Yeah.
I love this book so much. Do we get Hunger Game tattoos? Is that what we do?
What would it be?
I don't know.
A bow and an arrow? Take a sip.
Take a sip. Okay. So we talked about Katniss. I would like to talk about her perfect counterbalance.
Peeta?
Yep. I want to hear your thoughts on Peeta. Because mine have definitely changed from when I was 18 reading this.
Oh, really? Yeah.
When I was 18 reading this, being like, is it going to be Peeta or Gale? Versus me now.
It's so funny because I hated Peeta in the movies.
They really did him dirty with Josh Hutcherson. And I feel bad for Josh, but that was just, I
don't know. I actually have more appreciation for Josh Hutcherson now that I've read the book.
Yeah. They cut out some of his best lines that made Peeta so Peeta.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is fair. I loved Peeta.
Yeah.
I loved Peeta because of who he is. And he sees the goodness in everything and everyone. And yes, those people can be so frustrating sometimes. But Peeta was so necessary in a world that is so dark. And there's a reason, ultimately, why his and Katniss's relationship develops. And it was fascinating to see her really struggle with that relationship in the first book, because I didn't appreciate that struggle in the movies.
Because all of it is so mental. That's like, the movies did great, but they will never capture her own conflict. I think what I love about Peeta is that this is all through Katniss's eyes. We meet Peeta, and our initial reaction to him is almost like, well, he's the baker's son. He's kind of soft. He's never had to hunt for himself. He's never had to do anything. And that's our initial impression of him, right? He's just kind of a soft. He's nothing like Gale, who would go and hunt. Then we find out that he actually, gave her that bread, and that changed everything in her life. And not just that, but he handled a black eye for that bread. She doesn't really necessarily say it, but we as readers can say that is not the first black eye, the first hit he got.
Right.
From his family. Mom, probably.
Yeah, mom. Very abusive relationship.
Yeah.
That he's willing to endure for someone who is starving.
And so for someone who is soft, quote unquote soft, had to live his entire life in an abusive household to the point where even his mom was saying that she didn't think that he would survive. So, Katniss never thinks these things, but we as readers start clocking, maybe Peeta isn't as soft as we realize. And then he's the one who understands marketing. Yes, he's honest and pure, but he also is willing to manipulate and use what he has to. And that makes him so much more, not advanced, but more conniving than Katniss would have thought.
Yeah, he's not Machiavellian
Yeah.
necessarily in a way that I would say some characters are, maybe even including Haymitch. But he knows what it takes to survive in a different way than Katniss. Katniss knows what it takes to survive in a way to literally feed yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Peeta knows what it takes to survive in terms of how you speak and present yourself and the story that you tell. And both are necessary.
Both are necessary. And I think it's also a great idea of no pain knows better. Like, there's no like one pain that does it better than everyone. You know what I mean? Because I think sometimes people in life, they're like, well, I've been through this and therefore you would never understand. And I have always been a proponent of do not compare pain, do not compare trauma. Everyone's trauma is different. Katniss had to go and hunt at the age of 11. They almost starved. She had to single-handedly take care of her family. Her mother was emotionally absent, which hit me hard. Rereading that, I was like, oh,
I thought of you the entire time.
I was like, oh, damn. Luckily, I didn't live in District 12. But, you think about like, oh, wow, she's really been through it. Katniss's parents loved each other.
Yeah.
Katniss's parents never hit her. She never had to, even though her mom emotionally checked out, her mom emotionally came back in. It's not like she's still having to take care of her like that. It's very hard. And I think that's like hopefully something people realize as they get older, that you don't know what goes on behind the scenes of everyone else's house and how much their trauma you might not have had gone through, and you don't know that, and you don't know how it's had to toughen them up in different ways. Of course, Peeta would know how to manipulate media. He probably had to lie to his mom all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
In order to not get in trouble.
Yeah. And Suzanne, the narrative never spells that out.
No.
You have to make those inferences yourself based on the information that you're given.
That's why I think that this, for many reasons, this is as much an adult book as it is a YA book. I really enjoyed reading this as an adult because those are things that I was catching far more with Peeta. Before it was, again, I was fresh out of Jacob versus Edward. And so I'm like, Gale versus Peeta, who do we choose? And I think it's also like, we meet Gale so early on and we're just like, here's this hunky older boy. And then we get the baker's boy who's shorter, he can haul around stocky, but he can haul around some
bags of flour.
And he's also an artist and he's really good at painting himself and dirt and stuff. So, there's a lot of what you might quote unquote call soft boy. I mean, the way that they survive is literally because of Peeta's feelings and him being honest about his feelings. Talk about a revolutionary concept with like men and and male characters, right? Like they lived because Peeta owned up to the fact, but owned up to the fact that he does care for Katniss.
The fact that it never crosses Katniss's mind, tells you a lot about Katniss, right?
Yeah.
That she's not even capable of returning feelings to Gale. She doesn't even know how she feels about Gale. She can't even understand him at the start of the book when he tries to allude to them running off together.
I know.
Right? She's just like, huh?
But how does this logistically work out? This doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Exactly. It is an interesting turn on its head, but also it's very fundamental to understanding who Katniss is and who Peeta is. And from the beginning, Peeta looks out for her.
Yeah. Even when she doesn't realize it, he's looking out from her. And he understood. I mean, the fact that Peeta knew that he did not have the physical ability to win the whole thing, like he went into this knowing that it wasn't going to work. Like not his strength, but I'm trying to remember now. There was a point where Peeta and Katniss are thinking to themselves, how did Haymitch get through it? Maybe was it at the very end of the book? And they thought he outsmarted everyone because he wasn't stronger, faster, or anything. He outsmarted. Now I'm trying to remember when that part happened in the book.
They learn about it in the second book when they're preparing to go back into the Quarter Quell.
In the first book, they come to the conclusion of they outsmarted. But I'm wondering when that happened, because at what point, what inspired Peeta to say this is the strategy? Because when Peeta blocks Katniss out and says, I don't want to train with her, I want to media train with Hamish, that's the moment where he went to Hamish, most likely, and was like, hey, I actually have feelings for her. Let's use this. How can we use that to our advantage? I'm assuming that either he did that or maybe Hamish saw the crush, but it was an individual thing. I wonder from him, like what was the moment that he was like, this is what I'm going to use. Yes, I am going to use my feelings, because using that emotion, using his honest and pure feelings for Katniss is playing into the media and like playing into this government, and is part of giving away of something from yourself, that he's already sad that he doesn't want to die having lost a piece of himself. And in many ways he already has by using his own emotions.
I feel like it all ties back to their first entrance on the chariots, right? And everyone, it's one of those girlish moments for Katniss where she gets excited and smiles and waves and experiences this absurd form of joy for one moment.
Yeah.
And everyone falls in love with her and her magnetism. And that's when I think Peeta realizes they see what I see.
Yeah.
I can't keep it for myself. So let me play on my emotions because they can become everybody else's emotions.
Yeah. Even Senna, even he was saying like, hey, hold hands. Like, you guys going into this together. And then I think Katniss even kisses Peeta on the cheek at one point in the first chariot roll around. Yeah, I can see that being a moment of him being like, ooh, everyone's noticing her and us.
Yeah.
Let's see what I can do with this.
Yeah. And I don't think he's not Machiavellian.
No,
right?
no.
It's about survival.
Everyone's just trying to survive.
Yeah. So let's move from Peeta and performance, but just to performance and appearance in general. The Capitol.
Insane.
The way people augment their bodies and their appearance, their tattoos, their makeup, dyeing their skin. It's absurd, but it's an extreme of what people do today. That's
what it all is so insane, is that it's the extreme of what's already being done.
Yeah.
And who's to say that in 100 years it doesn't become that?
Exactly.
We talk about, and this isn't me trying to shame women. I will, but I'm gonna. No, this isn't me trying to shame women, but I think what is very unfair is that a lot of young women got lip fillers, facial fillers done, and done at a time that they didn't know that it was going to migrate, that you can't get rid of them. And sometimes you see some of these lip fillers and it just looks so bad. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to like insult any particular woman for that, but sometimes it just looks really bad and it just looks so, so bad. And yet the answer becomes, I want to get more. I have seen so many TikToks of women just saying, my friend says I have too much lip filler. Is that okay? Like, I don't think so. And they have lip filler blindness and the body dysmorphia of these women who don't know what they look like now, or that before they looked plenty fine. There's this one, reality TV shows, Love Island, there you see the before photos and you're just thinking, what happened? Why did you decide to change how gorgeous you are? And they just don't see it anymore. And what happens when it's done to the absolute extreme, when the body dysmorphia has dysmorphed so much that you now have to augment yourself quickly, and especially for how everything is readily available, right? They can change whatever they want about themselves at a drop of a hat.
It was definitely a harsh commentary. And, this is a time before social media, really, which is insanity, right? That the writing was already on the wall in terms of celebrity culture. And it only got worse with social media and influencer culture. And the fact that give me whatever it takes quickly to alter my appearance to fit the trends, but also that we allow society to feed on our insecurity of our appearances.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of it. I get Botox.
I'm on a GLP-1, like I'll be honest with these things. Like you get Botox, I'm on a GLP-1. Like I am not above anything. Like when I was 18, I had a breast reduction. Like I physically altered myself so that I could like myself. And I didn't like myself. I didn't want to be perceived a certain way. I hated the way I looked. I absolutely, because whenever I tell people I had a breast reduction, they always like to say, the first reaction people will say, oh, your back must have hurt. And I was like, no, I was 18 and I had great posture back in the day. I didn't have any back pain.
Right.
I despised myself. I hated myself so much that there was no other option.
And this is me making assumptions, but why'd you hate yourself? Because everybody fucking objectified you from the youngest age.
From 11, I had a D cup by the time I was 12, double D by the time I was 13. By the time I was 18, I don't even know what cup I was anymore because I was just in sports bras and they took 5 pounds of boob. And my nickname in high school was Tiggle Bitties. It's very triggering. I absolutely hate it. Tiggle Bitties is big old titties spelled backwards. I remember boys. I thought a boy was actually trying to hit on me and flirt with me. And all he did was, oh, my friends and I have a bet to see who can figure out how big your boobs are. And he spent like an hour trying to flirt with me. And I thought like for once a boy actually liked me. I mean, there's many reasons why I was extremely awkward. Like I just like hid myself. I was talking to my mom about like recently of how I worked out exclusively in sweatshirts despite how hot it would be because I didn't want anyone seeing me run. Mm-hmm. So like, yeah, I was extremely objectified. I only hated myself because of society. Because I was watching a Victoria's Secret ad on TV and I broke down sobbing because I didn't look like them.
And that's what society has done to the citizens of Pan Am, because that's what society has done to us and continues to do to us through our media.
Yeah.
I think it's later in the series that you learn that like the most natural looking makeup, like the no makeup look, is beauty base 0. And like, what an assessment of your worth for it to be base 0.
Yeah.
And then in book 3, in Mockingjay, you meet the tigress who has literally altered herself to look like a cat, sound like a cat.
And since then, there was a woman who did actually get plastic surgery to look like a cat since then.
Oh, Jesus.
I know. I mean, you see stories and, social clips of people getting, surgeries to like, now they alter their ears to look like fairies and now they're altering their teeth to be like vampires. And we might laugh them off, right? Being like, that would never happen. That is never a thing we would do. But look at trends of tattoos, apparently Gen Z has like a certain style of tattoo that I just don't understand. And every tattoo artist, when I see on TikTok, they're just like, they're going to regret it. Like that's such a standard style of tattoo. They're going to absolutely regret it. The millennial one is the patchwork tattoo, where it's just like a bunch of different types of tattoos. I think those look cool. But, so it's kind of like, well, how far are we? Like, I know the idea of someone getting their ears to look like a fairy. We're like, oh, that's so weird. Only random people would do that. But I'm seeing blackout tattoos way more now. People who have their entire body, face and everything tattooed. It's becoming a lot more popular. Now, you do you, boo. I don't care. But, and I'm not saying just because people are getting more tattoos means we're going to turn into the Capitol. But fast forward 500 years from now.
It's still body modification. I mean, one of the characters, I think it's Octavia, has green skin.
Yeah.
Like she dyes her skin green. I loved every time Katniss meets President Snow, his lips are bigger.
I forgot that. That's funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
One of the things that makes the residents of the Capitol very real. You have these moments of like, one's green, their makeup is insane. Everything about them is so insane. But there's a part where Katniss is thinking about like whether they annoy her or not. And I think this is like when she's first getting buffed and waxed and everything there. And Katniss thinks that she's very emotional. Like she is worried that she's going to start crying. Instead, she's actually relieved because everyone starts talking about where they were when Katniss volunteered as tribute. Oh my God, I was in my bed. I was just getting my nails done. And this is how I felt when I saw you go through that. And I had to sit back and I just think about every conversation. And what's one of the most popular things we say? Where were you during 9/11? Where were you when all this happened? Like, that's how we tell time and location and age and stuff. But then that's, a larger global, much more mass event. But that idea of you meet someone who's gone through something so traumatic and they're talking about it, but they just bring it back to themselves. I hear that daily.
Daily. The culture in the capital is very narcissistic. It is a commentary on us as a society.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking of America. I can't speak to the extent that that is the case elsewhere. I assume so because of social media, but I don't know that it is to the extent that it is in America.
Suzanne also made it clear that this is America. Like, Pan Am was America. She's not even messing around with this whole, well, maybe they're talking, this is a commentary on Europe. No.
She says very clearly that it was once a place called North America.
Yeah, Katniss lives whereby the Appalachian Mountains are. It's like, no. This one's for you, America. This is what becomes of you.
Yeah.
In however many years. This is what happens to you. There's just so much.
It deserves a chapter by chapter breakdown.
It really does. Okay, I'm going to read some DMs.
Okay.
Faith says, as a teenager, I hated reading. This was the first book I read that truly held my interest and made me fall in love with reading. I had no clue that books could be so exciting and fast-paced. As an adult, I now see how truly terrible some of the themes are and how they call to the faults in society. And I actually appreciate it more. It's still one of my favorites. How Suzanne can trick children and adults, I will never understand.
Well, I was thinking about this earlier about how everyone read this in high school. Emma read this in high school and loved it. And it's like, this is a bad metaphor, but it's like Shrek. It has enough humor for children to appreciate, but it has a whole other layer of humor for adults to appreciate. That's the same with Suzanne's storytelling. There's a story that children, high schoolers can appreciate. And then there's this whole other metaphorical layer that you can't see until you're an adult and you've experienced the world and you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And you really appreciate it for what it is.
I feel that way about Grease.
The musical?
Mm-hmm. I watched that all the time as a kid. And then I got older and I was like, there was an abortion?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's fair.
What I saw as a kid versus what I see every time as I rewatch it, I feel like there's always a joke or something that I missed.
Yeah,
and yet at the same time,
so dirty.
It's so
dirty.
Okay, and this one is from Sarah. Katniss is so traumatized. She literally cannot consider a future because she's carrying her family on her back. All she can think about is keeping Prim safe, even in her absence when she will be in the fight for her life. She doesn't trust her mother and has to rely on Gale to step up in her absence. She is so emotionally blunted and cannot tell what's real because she's stuck in fight or flight.
Yeah, absolutely.
The not being able to tell what's real.
We have someone who responded to our post. Eliza said, so good. Perfect first book. Katniss is a perfect, unreliable narrator. It's just like, again, Feyre in A Court of Thorns and Roses. You have to have that first person narrative for the unreliable narrator to be as good as it is.
I would argue, and I agree with all of that, so I'm not arguing you, babe. I am arguing that Suzanne masters the unreliable narrator in a way that it doesn't take much for a reader to see what Katniss is not seeing.
Right.
I don't think that Feyre's an unreliable narrator, but I do a read through and I can easily miss those things. You know what I mean? Like, it isn't until I have to pay attention a little bit more and I'm just like, oh, okay, I can see where she's being unreliable. When it comes to Katniss and the Hunger Games, though, the environment is so untrustworthy that it then makes me kind of have to question everything that I'm seeing, including Katniss. And it's done in a way that I don't think you have to be a particularly skilled reader to see what she's putting down and what Katniss is missing as well.
Yeah, it is definitely, if learning how to see an unreliable narrator was like riding a bike, this is the version with training wheels.
Yeah.
It's just so obvious that Katniss is blind to so many things.
Yeah. But the layers and layers that you can dissect, but that's what makes it fun, is like we can go into it knowing she is so unreliable. So how many rereads do you get to that you can do trying to catch everyone else's motivations that you're missing? And I think that's what makes the rereads so fun. I mean, as someone who just reread this and I haven't read it in years, where I was like, oh my God, I didn't catch all these other shady ass people doing things.
Yeah. Yeah. Kayla says, in my opinion, the movie is better. Movie Katniss feels more true, which is so interesting. I think I can see what Kayla's saying in the sense that movie Katniss is that stoic character that Katniss is meant to be. Again, I think Jennifer Lawrence did a good job if the Hunger Games was told in a third-person point of view from Peeta's perspective. Right? Not from Katniss's perspective. You can't appreciate Katniss as a character unless you hear her dialogue, in my opinion.
I agree. I think they did everything they could.
Mm-hmm.
What they can do, they did it to the absolute best ability.
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence's performance was great. I will always remember the part where they're interviewing Katniss for the very first time and she's really nervous and then the audience laughs and then Jennifer Lawrence kind of looks out and awkwardly laughs like, wait, am I in this joke with you guys too?
Yeah.
And then she twirls and she's just kind of like, catches herself unaware. It's the layers of dialogue within. It's the fooling herself. It's the unreliable narrator. That stoic, I'm not saying anything part is there. I will have to say, Katniss is supposed to be a lot more tan, dark skin, copper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was one of the first things when they casted Jennifer Lawrence. Everyone was like, she's a white woman, so they tanned her up. I don't know. That's not a good thing. But I think Jennifer Lawrence's performance was fantastic. Wish that they had someone else for what she could portray. She did great. But I agree. There's some of that girlishness only really comes across in the POV.
Yeah.
This is from Sage. Okay, I could go on for hours, but in short, genuinely, this is one of the best novels, not just YA, but flat out novels of the 21st century. It presents a dictatorial regime in a way that's engaging to teens and adults and outlines how right and wrong can be blurred in that society because of the circumstances. Kids killing kids, Gale's entire arc, etc. It also does such a great job introducing a world and characters who you want to root for and root against. Forever my fave series, and book 1 is just a fantastic start to the series.
Mm-hmm.
Can you remind us, Amy, of Gale's arc? Because I can't remember Gale's arc. I remember he isn't great, but can you take us through it?
Sure. So as you mentioned, Jack, at the beginning of the Hunger Games, Gale rants about the Capitol, but can't really do anything about it and hints at wanting to run away with Katniss. Katniss doesn't pick up what he's putting down. So we then don't really see him ever again until Catching Fire. By then, he's working in the mines. He's not able to hunt with Katniss anymore. And Katniss is now like, let's run away. And he's like, huh? Okay. And Gale's a selfish, jealous bastard who doesn't see what Peeta and Katniss were doing, which was trying to survive.
Yeah.
And he's pissed that Katniss seems to have feelings for Peeta. And he's now the quote unquote cousin to justify his existence in her life.
Mm-hmm.
Where it really, really gets intense is Mockingjay. So Gale helps District 12 citizens escape and go to District 13, where they ultimately see Katniss again. He works his way up the brass in District 13. It's symbolized by his comms watch. I was like, oh my God, Apple Watch? What are you doing? Why
are you here?
Why are you here? This is ahead of your time. He goes to training every day. He works with Beatty on weapons. He teaches people how to do snares. And ultimately, he is the architect of some really terrible things that happen because his point of view is an eye for an eye. They have no qualms about killing us, so I'm going to think like them and kill them, right? So the best example is in District 2. It's the last district to fall to the rebellion. And he sets a bomb trap that caves in the bunker in a mountain and mines that everyone is in. And he just wants to kill them all.
Yeah.
And Katniss convinces everyone, let them escape through the train tunnels instead. But he's like, no, we should just kill them. And it's ultimately one of his traps that gets Prim killed.
I forgot that. Thank you for taking us through that.
And I have to say where he ends up. He never goes back to District 12. He is in some other district with a big important job, thinking big important things, and never talks to Katniss again.
Like, I'll be fully honest. I could not remember his arc. I remember we don't like him, and I remember all of that. And I'm going to be bringing in Spark of the Everflame again in Henry. And I think that, I really wish we could talk to Penn again. Let's schedule another interview. Go listen to our interview with her, because we talked to Penn about, and this is not a spoiler to the series or anything, that Henry is another counterbalance, and he doesn't go and kill people trapped underneath a mountain. The question ends up being, are Henry's actions too extreme when what's happening to them is extreme, right? And I think that's a good, complicated question. And I think that that's something that she runs with and does wonderful. That's not what we're seeing here. So when as I was reading this, I kept thinking about Henry, and I kept thinking, well, what they're going through is horrible. Is Gale not just reacting to and trying to fight back in a horrible, oppressive fashion, like things that have been against them? And now that you're reminding me, I'm like, no. Because at first you could say yes, for how oppressed and what they're going through. Of course, you're going to retaliate, but then it goes too far.
Right. You could say at first, but the mine instance is one of those tipping points where Katniss is like, we are becoming them.
Yeah.
What is the point of this rebellion if we just become them? And if we just allow the cycle to repeat itself? And that is ultimately why they're able to keep the train open to allow the people in the mines to get out, and, a different battle ensues. The fact that it is questionable. So let me describe how Prim dies. There's a group of children, they're all refugees in the capital. A hover plane flies overhead, silver parachutes descend, and it's got canisters of food and whatnot for children. Some of them have bombs. The bombs go off. And then the rebel medics come in to help the children, because why would you harm children? Children don't deserve to be harmed. And then the rest of the bombs go off. And what President Snow tells Katniss, and what Katniss realizes, is that it was probably President Coin from District 13 and Gale who came up with a plan to send a hovercraft that was operated by rebels to kill the children, because Gale was not above that. They didn't expect rebel medics to come in
order to make them look bad, to make the Capitol look bad. It's pretending to
kill children and medics.
Yeah. Although not pretending, actually killing them. Yeah. But pretending to be the Capitol.
President Snow, and the great irony of Mockingjay is, I would never waste those kinds of resources.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to butcher a memory, and you're going to tell us what happened. And then I'm going to do my grand reveal of something, which you've heard me say before. I have this memory. It's towards the end. President Snow dies, and then I think someone kills the other corrupt president.
Yes. So it is...
She kills her.
Yeah. Katniss kills President Coin with her arrow. She's meant to do some ceremonial thing to kill President Snow.
Yeah.
She turns around and kills President Coin.
Yeah.
And then you hear President Snow laughing, and they can't tell how he died. He must have just died in the stampede. They don't know how he dies. He just ends up dying because he's tied up.
So I just remember, and I'm going to have to reread the whole thing again in order for me to remember what I was thinking, but I remember reading the ending. And I think whether it was that ending or the fact that it ends with her in a field and being happy, I just was like, this doesn't feel right. Like this ending never sat right with me. And I just kept thinking like this doesn't feel, for what this entire series was, the ending never sat right with me. And when I was taking that YA class in college, I was talking to the professor and I was like, I just don't think this ending, it just doesn't feel right to me. And the professor, take this all with a giant grain of salt, guys. So, I'm just going off of what this white man said. And he claimed that he was friends with Suzanne and that my conclusion was that ultimate power corrupts and that the system was never going to be broken. Whether she killed Coin, it was just another symbol of corruption continues. Corruption's going to continue. That's just it. But that her publisher forced her to say, no, you have to have like, this is YA. You need it to be happy. We need to have a nice wrapped up bow at the end. Like we can't have this larger metaphor. And I remember talking to the professor and I was like, that feels like that's the ending. And he said like, yeah. So he claimed that that's what happened. And that's what, Suzanne had to do that, whether it's true or not. But I just, having you're the one who's read it more recently. Could you see that having been the quote unquote true ending?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say though, if that was supposed to be the true ending and wasn't, I think it still plays out in a way that the message comes across because Katniss spends a lot of time thinking about, we're just repeating the cycle. We're allowing the cycle to repeat itself.
Yeah.
And she kind of accepts her role in that because at the end of the day, it ended up being about vengeance.
Yeah.
For Katniss, it wasn't about the greater good. As much as she understood the need for the greater good, I think that message is still there.
Yeah.
And even though Coin is killed, even though President Snow is killed, you still have people like Gale who have big fancy jobs. You still have Plutarch who's running the media. Like there are still vestiges of the old system that you can't guarantee a beautiful world. What you're left with are these two really broken people who've been broken by society and don't even know if they can still trust each other.
Yeah.
Just trying to make the best of the life that they've got.
I think that makes sense that she felt like she had to go back in time to do these stories that are tragic. Because I think now she's able to be like, not going to be YA, bitches.
Yeah.
Do whatever the fuck I want. And we know that since it's all prequel, it doesn't end well. Like, we all know this isn't going to end well. We know that there's only going to be one winner. We know that the system is going to continue. So it just makes sense there where she's like, you know what? I want the tragic, bitter endings. And that is me having not read any of the prequel stuff or having seen any of it. Because again, I need to maintain some semblance of joy and happiness. And I'm not there yet, although I will be.
I could see her writing a sequel that's set 50 years in the future and it's all gone tits up again.
Yeah, I think she will. The fact that she continues to write is just like signs that we are not in a good place in society, because she's like, I'm going to keep going so long as I got commentary. Yeah. I won't be like, chill, babe.
Yeah. So some of our listeners said one of the most culturally significant novels of our time, not to be dramatic. And it was way ahead of its time when it came out. So a lot of people miss the point, which is the irony because of how relevant it is right now.
Yeah.
It feels very George Orwellian.
Yeah.
Very 1984, written in 1948. And the concepts are still relevant to us now. Big Brother watching, rewriting history.
Playing angles. Like, it doesn't matter when in history, the second media or some kind of coverage. I mean, even before there was media and it was just history is only told by the victors. Mm-hmm. I had like someone tell me, probably another professor when it's like, going through college and they're just like blowing my mind. It's can you reverse the story with the Empire? And, what's the angle if the Empire, think about Star Wars, if the Empire is good and you have these rebels that are coming in trying to dismantle this, they're the terrorist group. In Star Wars, the rebels are only the rebels because they win. Otherwise, they're the terrorists.
Yep.
And that was like the same professor. This was like, again, early, like probably like 2009. And that was like one where I remember where he was like, what do you think people in Iraq thought America was? the Empire coming in, invading a country, trying to quote unquote, find these weapons of mass destruction that never existed.
Yeah. It was all a lie.
It was all a lie. Blaming one, a group and then trying to destroy an entire country and everything for oil. And I remember when he said that, he was like, what do you think that, like, why wouldn't America, this rich, large company, not be the empire?
It's true.
That was like a moment where I was like,
yeah. I mean, I think a lot about the American Revolution and how would this story be different if Americans lost? They would be defined as terrorists because it was like the first time guerrilla warfare was used. It was the first signs of war changing and how war was waged.
Yeah.
And, the English, the Europeans, well, not the Europeans, the French were also fighting.
But I mean, like, there's also a lot of other aspects to it, too, where it's like not saying that the, European settlers were not absolutely decimating local indigenous people. But, had the American rebels lost and England, the empire, had won, would the narrative had then been these rebel Americans or colonies were trying to take land away from the local indigenous, which we did do. It's all fucked. Again, yeah, history's told by the winners, and the winners are always the underdogs.
Yeah. I mean,
in their narration,
Right. I think often about the Cultural Revolution in China and what is now communist China. And it's easy for us who are not in China, who see the other side, who know the stories that your average Chinese person does not know because history is rewritten and things are kept from them.
Yeah.
And I know this to be truth. I've experienced it in my life and seen my white teacher who married a Chinese woman tell her stories about like the 80s in Tiananmen Square and the, tanks running over students. Most Chinese don't know about that. Anyway, so.
Well, sorry, I'm like, I want to double down on what you just said. Just this past fucking week, the Smithsonian has like a whole display talking about presidents who've been impeached, and they removed Trump from that. And there was so much backlash of saying, you are trying to rewrite history. That's not even including all of the people of people of color who are being removed from history, from the different museums and everything going on. But the Smithsonian removed Trump from the inauguration. Again, there was so much pushback that they then put him back in because he was impeached twice. And it's like we in America are watching history being actively erased. And that is what happens in 50 years when someone marries someone from outside of America and doesn't know that Trump was impeached. You know what I mean?
Right. Or like in Japan, they don't teach the extent to which the Japanese were involved in the Pacific side of World War II and what they did in countries that are still recovering from that.
Hearing some of the stories you've told me of people you've known who've gone to parts of Korea and they're like, well, no, this isn't true. And it's like, yes, it is. And then people getting DNA tested and finding out that they are 50% or 25% Japanese and then wondering where the hell did that come from? And it's like, well, history, which you're trying to erase, it happened. So I think that all of this can kind of come down to where even Hunger Games, the history of how the districts came to be was retold, was rewritten. The Capitol talked about how horrible these rebellions were. And that's where all this nuclear war came from. And we are trying to save you. And that's why we have the Hunger Games, because of these rebels. But we're doing it because it's a celebration.
Mm-hmm. We're honoring the past to remember that we're never going to do this again.
Yeah. They're actively writing history, erasing history as the book progresses and continues. And this was written in 2008, and yet it is more relevant today than it was then.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was published in 2008, right? So it was written probably a couple years before that.
Yeah. Okay, I want to read a couple more notes. Peeta as an MMC rewired my teenage brain. He had so much charisma and was so genuine. The riz that this kid had was the way he was like hustling, trying to get kisses from her. You know, I'm injured. You can kiss me.
Yeah, the movies did Peeta dirty because I was so heartbroken when Peeta comes back hijacked.
Yeah.
Brainwashed, as they call it, hijacked.
I know. Amy knows that I hate when people use my name in vain. Anything with jack off, hijack, it's so unfortunate. It's an unfortunate representation of jacks.
Yes,
but, yes. For this purpose, I will understand.
Someone said the quote-unquote romance was so out of place, but of course loved the book besides that. Well, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's supposed to be out of place.
Yeah, it is supposed to be out of place. And I was trying to remember, when is the moment where Katniss and Peeta get together? Like, when is that official, we're boyfriend, girlfriend? And it never really happens because he gets hijacked and he gets rewired and eventually comes to accept that he does love. And the feelings are there and we know they end up together.
Yeah, but not in the same way.
Yeah.
He has to say to her, you love me, real or not real. Even in their happily ever after, he still doesn't know lie from truth.
Oh, really? I forgot that. What does she say? Real?
Real. But like, they are so traumatized from the war. They can never be what they should have been. Peeta can never be the truly doting, loving husband that he could have been for Katniss. He still goes through episodes, and Katniss says in the epilogue, he still has days where he grips the couch and closes his eyes, and I can tell that he's fighting.
Yeah.
You know, the memories.
The PTSD these kids have. I mean, talk about they're together trauma bonded. Now, in my mind, I want to believe that they are endgame soulmates happily ever after. The question also is, could they even be with anyone else?
After what they went through? Absolutely not.
No. Even from what I remember / was rewatching TikToks, even at the beginning of Catching Fire, there are small moments where you could be like, okay, there's hope here. Like, they could actually like each other. But even in those moments, it's built out of trauma of what they both went through. If none of them had they would never have talked. And would they have even gotten together? I don't think Katniss would have ever recognized that he's not soft and wouldn't respect him.
Right. Absolutely. And honestly, he would have never had a reason to confess his feelings.
Yeah.
And his parents certainly wouldn't have let him be with her. He's in town and she's from the scene. And, you know, there's a class divide even within the class divides.
Right.
Maybe Katniss could have been with Gale purely because he was right there. But the second she went to the Hunger Games, it was game over for Gale.
Yeah.
Because he could never understand what she went through. And only Peeta could understand that.
And that's the part that I know whenever I do reread the rest of it, whenever we inevitably will cover this whole series book by book, is understanding that Peeta and Katniss may not ever have been that OTP endgame. They are endgame because
circumstance.
They are what they have left. Doesn't mean they don't love each other. Doesn't mean, I mean, you can also argue that a bond is a bond.
Yeah.
Trauma bond or not. A bond is a bond. Doesn't mean that they don't actually love each other. Doesn't mean that they don't actually have very real romantic feelings. It's just like, could they have ever have actually been anything else?
It's not like they were fated mates.
Yeah.
Right? And that's life. Maybe there are some people out in the world who are soulmates, and no matter what happens, no matter how you change the decisions that were made, they would have always found each other. But for the rest of us normal people, it's about circumstance and the decisions you make and the things that happen to you make you compatible or incompatible with certain types of people.
There's a reason why you hear, right person, wrong time. You hear that a lot of time with situations. I haven't experienced that. It's always been the wrong person. But that's a concept you do hear, and that is real. Circumstances where people are in life, one person might want to settle down more. One person might want to not want kids right away. Maybe someone wants kids. Maybe someone doesn't want kids. Maybe it's about drive and career. There's a million things. Those are circumstances. and being a part of a rebellion and dealing with the aftermath of that rebellion. Those are also circumstances.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more comments and then wrap up.
A lot of people saying they read it when they were young and either it made them love reading, they loved it then, but they haven't reread, or they're like, oh, I've reread it now and I have a different level of appreciation.
Yeah. One of the best political commentaries in 2010s. And today.
Ooh, someone said, I really liked it and it's fun to unspool deeper meanings, like name choices and Roman history.
Oh.
That's one of the things that they talk about in the Mockingjay is Panem is short for panem et, I forget what the other word is, but basically it means bread and circus.
Oh.
Panem et circenses, which literally means bread and circuses.
I probably would have figured that out with my Latin.
Yeah, good for you.
I say that having you told me. Real easy.
The phrase refers to the Roman practice of appeasing the public by providing them with food and entertainment to distract them from more important political matters. Why do we think professional sports are such a big deal in America?
It distracts us. It takes away people from having to critically think about anything else and being able to put all your energy, rage, and joy into one thing rather than displacing that anywhere else. Why is it that a certain orange man is doing a million other things rather than releasing certain files that he is 100% in? You know?
I always wondered why the Super Bowl was so close to inauguration.
Oh, wow. Amy blew all of our minds today, I'm assuming. Yeah. There's every once in a while I'll land on conspiracy theory TikTok. And it's like, say in the comments, what's your number one conspiracy theory that you truly believe in? And now I'm borderline, like, I can believe that. And it is that the government purposely does not support veterans because if they were actually supported, they would be the first ones to turn against the government and be capable of bringing them down.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's
Colleen says, mic drop.
Oh, yeah. Amy. Yeah.
Well, and then it's followed by March Madness.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and then if you're not into that, there's all of the Academy Awards, the Grammys. It's a lot of distraction.
And we willfully submit.
Yeah.
We want the escape.
Yeah.
And I don't blame anybody for wanting the escape. I want to escape as well.
I want to constantly escape. I am escaping both through reading and writing and would like to physically escape through marriage. And if anyone has a brother or something
to offer as
or
tribute.
Once in your life, tribute. It's just incredible how many times I've or not how many times, I've only done this a few times where I'm like, if anyone knows a guy, let me know. And then the DMs that we will get of like, I am so sorry, I literally don't know any good men. Tragic, heartbreaking. Okay. When I read this for the first time years ago, I thought it was shit. I didn't know authors could be so ruthless killing off characters. When Rue died, even rereading that, I was doing my makeup and I just kept thinking when I was listening to it, I was like, why did I listen to this now? I am struggling so hard. Don't cry. I had to keep dabbing my eyelashes, trying to put them on my mascara. It is tragic. It is heartbreaking. It is perfect.
Can you guess the only time in the series I cried?
Ooh, yeah. Hold on. Nothing to do with the siblings. I mean, maybe the volunteering is tribute because I feel like you would volunteer for your siblings, but you'd probably be more pissed about it. It was probably a time when Katniss wasn't given credit or something. I don't think you cried during Rue's death. All right. I don't know what.
At the end of the Mockingjay, when...
Oh, we're talking whole series.
Sorry.
Whole
series.
I was... Fortunately for you, I don't remember.
At the end of the Mockingjay, Katniss returns to District 12 when she's forgiven of her war crimes. And Buttercup, Prim's cat, has walked all the way from District 13 back to District 12, is malnourished, and he's meowing at her, where's Prim? And she's yelling at the cat, she's dead! Leave me alone! She's not coming back! And then they take care of each other.
I can see that hurting you right now. I can, like, if you were to really think about it, you would probably start crying right now. Like, thinking about, like,
the poor cat. It doesn't understand. Oh, I sobbed like a baby.
Oh, really?
Poor Buttercup.
Oh. Who would be able to make that distance? Dahlia or Soba? 1, 2, 3.
Dahlia.
Soba.
Dahlia, I think, would be a more ruthless than Soba.
I've seen Dahlia pounce at flies. She wouldn't survive because if she has zero coordination. She wouldn't be able to catch anything.
Soba is just as clumsy as her.
But yeah, I feel like he'll try more.
Maybe. She would boss him around and he would feed her. He would sacrifice himself for her, to be honest.
That's fair. These are Amy's cats. Having a book that kills off kids, it's not something that you read. It wasn't until, and I can't remember what movie it is, there's a lot of plays, like Shakespeare plays, a lot of like other movies, plays. If there's a child's death, it happens off screen. Mm-hmm. You don't get that on screen. And that's still today. You might see a general, like you might see it happen, but usually kids' deaths happen off screen. Not this book. Not today. Not with this one. But she knows how to use death, right? Like when you have Katniss who does her first physical killing, mm-hmm. She doesn't dwell on that too much because there's a certain amount of like, you know, like Rue, she died and Katniss thinks like, wow, that was like the first person I really killed. I feel weird about that. That's not good. Versus Peeta when Foxface died. And it wasn't even his fault. He was just collecting the murder berries and then Foxface stole some and ate it. He was really wrecked by guilt on that one. Mm-hmm. So even the deaths are used.
Yeah.
Very much so. Fantastic freaking book. Yeah. You guys, we did it again. We peer pressured Amy into reading something that she eventually liked, loved even.
I do love it. If you haven't reread it, reread it as an adult. Read the entire series. Yeah, it will mess you up.
Do you think you're going to go and read some of the prequels and watch the movies? Yeah. Let me know how that goes for you, kid.
Okay.
I need you to
I will do that for you.
Yeah, I need someone to test that water for me and then just say.
It helps that I don't watch the news.
Yeah.
So I have some distance.
Yeah.
Right? I can take on that pain for you since you keep me up to date on life.
Yeah.
I will keep you up to date on Suzanne Collins.
Every once in a while, there'll be something where I can't remember when was the last one, but every once in a while you do flag. You're like, not for you, Jack. Not for you. Move along. This ain't your show.
Yep. Don't do it.
Don't do it. But maybe regardless, maybe I'll do it. We'll see. I'm feeling mentally stable later.
This is my official plug for next week's book, A Cruel Thirst. It does not have a lot of Goodreads reviews.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
It is. Have you finished it?
Almost done with it.
Great representation of culture pre-America in California. Mm-hmm. I thought of you the entire time. I was like, Jack is going to love this.
Me too. It feels really nice to read something where Spanish has been heavily incorporated, and you don't need to know Spanish. Although, okay, random story. I keep thinking about this and I'm laughing so fucking hard, like every time I think about it. As we all know, because I mention it many times on this podcast, English wasn't my first language. I spoke Spanish, lost it all, and then I speak English. And then I speak English. I can't say certain things. There's certain words, there's certain ways of saying things that I do not know. And then recently I found out Amy has given up on many aspects of correcting some of these words for me. I'm like, did you know I say this incorrectly? Yes. And I stopped correcting you a long time ago. I just gave up. We were at a bar with my mom and her husband. And she said something, and then I looked at Amy and I was like, knowing that my mom, who was not born in this country, who did not speak English, and you having known my grandparents who were immigrated to this country, English was not their first language at all. these are the people that raised me.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, you get a free pass.
So every time I fuck up, guys, just remember I get a free pass.
Even Jac's mom says irked.
Yeah. And I still struggled. So I stopped saying the word.
Which is great. That's always a solution.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for Cruel Thirst. I'm sure you guys can read it on Libby. Or can you find it on Libby? Now I want to find. Hold on.
That's a good question.
You guys, I started using Libby. Big fan. Big fan of their work. Y'all, it's on Libby. The audiobook is on Libby. The
Oh, yeah, do it.
Kindle version, digital book is on Libby. Libby, all you need is a library card. You get connected to a bunch of libraries. And yes, if you download it now for free, go for it.
Yeah, do it.
Love it. Be a part of it. That's one. I mean, definitely indie author needs more support. Can't wait.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Next week, we'll be discussing A Cruel Thirst by Angela Montoya.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. If you'd like to submit your take on any of the books we plan to discuss later this autumnish, please be sure to follow us on Instagram, where we ask for listener submissions.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle BookTalk for Book Talk.
Bye.